It's December 23rd, 2019. Exactly 1 year ago, I took delivery of this Tesla Model 3 long-range all-wheel drive I'm sitting in. It is our daily driver. It's our family car. It's our long road trip car. My wife and I have been so pleased with it over the last year that kind of the ultimate testimonial is we kicked our last gas car to the curb, her 2005 Honda Civic, last week. So that 2005 Honda Civic was replaced with, guess what? A Tesla Model 3 Standard Range Plus, which after federal and Connecticut rebates came out to $36,000. That is the story here. I wanted to lead with the price on how far the prices have fallen since I got this car, which is all-wheel drive, long range, which now has 322 miles of rated range. And I do drive this to Boston and back, or New York and back, all in the same day, quite often. Now, in the summer, that's easily done. In the winter, if it's like 10 degrees, all right, the battery could take as much as 40% hit on range, and now I'll need to supercharge. It's more like 200 miles range instead of 320 something at that point. So just pointing out that the ownership experience has been phenomenal. 99% of trips, I'm not supercharging. I'll just point that out again. Hundreds of trips a year for my job, for my personal needs, for picking up a son from the train station today, picking up another son near Boston earlier this week, and then finally a whole lot of business travel around the DC area all the way to Richmond. One time I even just drove to Delaware, 4 hours and 40 minutes, I think, or so in the car, supercharged in Delaware for about 35 minutes while eating at the food court, and charging was done enough to get to the hotel in DC. My whole trip took less than 6.5 hours. In other words, there's no inconvenience on those long trips. That was my biggest fear. Can I do a lot of driving, which I sometimes did for my job, without a big inconvenience? The answer is a wholehearted yes. So what else do I want to recap? Not only am I happy with the experience, the fuel economy, right? So this car is the equivalent of, I think it's 112 miles per gallon equivalent. It's incredibly efficient. And my wife's car, the Standard Range Plus, the more affordable one that has rear-wheel drive only, that's driving to and from work and around town. And if the weather's bad, we agreed, she just takes my car. Obviously, she's used to the feel of the car and the seat position, all that is good to go. It's pretty awesome that finally, my wife was never a fan of borrowing my 2006 Honda Civic Hybrid before. So got rid of that car a year ago, and then the other Honda Civic just a few days ago. So that is the point of this video. Not look at me, we got two fancy cars. No, look at my wife and I, who decided to wait 13 to 15 years to get a new car, get our kids through college, and then go all electric. The point is, they're now the price of the average American car. Okay, so we don't need a Model Y or a Cybertruck or something bigger, clearly. In fact, we're so used to a Civic that being about 5 inches wider, I think it's 7 inches longer, it was a bit of an adjustment. This is closer to Accord inside, almost Accord in size. But it's a mid-size car rather than compact car because of the interior volume. Quite comfortable for us, quite a bit quieter than anything we were used to. We can actually talk to passengers in the rear seat easily. That was not really possible on a highway trip in the Civic. You'd kind of have to yell. Not really kind of. There is some road noise. You're hearing the tires on the pavement. They're actually aftermarket tires, not the ones that Tesla comes with, that are a lot better in snow. And I think there'll be a lot more coming out now that there's 600,000 plus of these cars on the road globally. Let me just repeat that. Over 500,000 Model 3s. So when I got mine, VIN number 119,000 something, and my wife's car, 612,000 something. That's a big difference. 500,000 cars were made between mine and hers over the last year. That should give whoever's watching this reassurance that this is no longer an early adopter car at all. In fact, mine wasn't either. My Honda Civic Hybrid was, I think, the 6,000th VIN number made of that series. So that was a whole lot riskier move I took in 2006 versus going to this long-range Model 3. I'll also point out that the long-range Model 3, if you live in, let's say, Canada or New England like I do, and you actually do a lot of long day trips, you're going to want that long range, especially because of what I mentioned about winter range, right? And my job, I've actually changed jobs twice during this car. All of them have involved travel, and the reimbursement rate is about 56 cents a mile. Do the math. If you're going to Richmond like I did for, I think it was $14 of electricity from my garage, and then supercharging was actually free because of referrals, but even that, even with that, this cost savings was still a third to 1/5 of what it would be if I was in a gas car. Now, if I wasn't supercharging, it was a more local trip like Boston and back, which I'll be doing frequently in my current job. Even better, it's only from my garage, which is the cheapest electricity compared to superchargers, which will eventually start charging me when I run out of referrals from people, getting the car. I've had a couple of referrals where we got 1,000 free supercharger miles for my wife and I to use for each of our cars as needed on long trips. Her car will rarely supercharge, since mine will be for the long road trip. So for us, we're extremely grateful. It worked out so well that the timing worked out such as it did that her car needed towing frequently this year and a blown head gasket, and it was just the end of the road for her car. And the Standard Range Plus was available in volume. We only had to wait 33 days here in Connecticut. Not bad considering it had to be created in the Fremont, California factory near San Francisco, trucked across the country in about 8 days. And it was the beginning of a quarter, near the beginning of a quarter, when a lot of the cars are slated for overseas export. So waiting 33 days for this car, not a big deal, all right? My car was a little longer wait a year ago. Year-end rush, they did a great job at Mount Kisco. The paperwork was done in about 10 minutes. They saw us right on our scheduled time at 11 a.m. in crummy weather with snow and ice around. So I will say that buying in Connecticut, if you happen to be in Connecticut watching this, also not a big deal at all, even though we have no dealerships in the state. You can actually now get a test drive here in Connecticut at the Milford Service Center, Tesla location. Okay, any other closing thoughts on this car? Looking around at the interior, there's really no signs of wear and tear other than maybe a couple of scuffs on the back of the seats here that I'm sitting on. So from the back seat, that's very slight scuffing. I could probably get it out with a sponge or a little bit of elbow grease. I did use, I did do a few, two surface repairs that were essential, I would say. One was tire rotation, another was to replace the air filters. There was some moisture accumulating and the air filters needed a replacement, and a cleaning of the AC system that got rid of that problem. So that's the only service that was needed. There's no anything else. I obviously filled my own washer fluid, big deal, and replaced my own wiper blades. So mobile service actually handled one of those service visits where they came in a van right to my driveway. So it's another thing that's unique about an electric car. All right, summing things up here. How many miles have I done? Well, I'm about to do another 100 miles today or so. So let me just add 100 to the number on the odometer on my year anniversary of this car. So I am going to be at 24,785 miles by the end of today. Probably about, closer to 25,000 if we round up a bit. That's a lot of miles, the most I've driven in my life. So when my wife and I made the very difficult decision to jump in a more expensive car by far than we've ever owned after almost 30 years of Honda Civic ownership, at least one in our family, that was a tough decision to make bigger car payments. But when it also became clear my job had me driving over 1,000 miles some weeks, 56 cents a mile, do the math, able to make the car payment easily, very easily, many of the months. So financially, it worked out quite well for us. We plan to keep our cars a long time. Normally, it's not recommended you buy a new car. In this case, a little different circumstance. There were very few used Model 3s, and the price is basically 95% of the new price. So for us, new cars actually made sense. You might want to lease if you're, nervous about buying an electric car, but I would strongly encourage you to test drive it. I'll repeat that. Test drive a Tesla or another electric car before you make any conclusions. Stop reading on the internet, stop looking at YouTube videos like this. Try one. Bring a friend or your significant other along. It totally changes everything. When you touch the gas pedal, the go pedal, the acceleration, let's see, how to explain it. It's instant, right? So you hear that over and over. What does it mean? Normally in a car, if you floor it, it takes a second or two for the car to get up to full RPMs with full thrust, full torque, full horsepower. That's not true in electric. It's immediately available. So any anxiety about pressing the go pedal and waiting to slot into traffic, or even my wife and I, we drive pretty conservatively. We have very clean driving records, safe drivers. It just feels immediately good. That's an understatement. It earns your trust quickly. I was nervous about driving this car before I got in it. As soon as I started driving and my wife was in the back and the Tesla employee next to me, I realized, what the heck was I nervous about? My goodness, by far the best thing I've driven in 30-something years. So That's a big deal. Hands down the best purchase my wife and I have made, period. I guess you'd call it a technology purchase, but next to your house is the biggest thing you buy generally is your car, and you don't want to get it wrong. So my article is long, warts and all, everything about owning the car, every little thing that might have that popped up at one time or another that concerned me, all spelled out in large amounts of detail. So if you haven't been to tinkertry.com here, try it. Go to tinkertry.com/Tesla. You will see the collection of articles there. And also on the YouTube channel, which is a quick link away. At the top you see the videos bar on all my articles. Head over to YouTube and you'll see a playlist that's called Tesla. There's a whole lot of videos there as well, including driving on the parking lot I'm sitting in now, with Summit, kind of the fun features, the show-off stuff. So as I come to the end of the year here, there's some differences between my car and my wife's car. I paid for full self-driving after taking delivery. That $2,000 investment means I get a computer upgrade that's behind my glove box here. They will do that at Tesla, Connecticut, Milford. No charge because I already paid for that. All right, that was me basically investing in the future. And this is a technology I've been thinking about since I was in my early 20s in grad school doing visual perception research. So I can't emphasize enough the thrill of seeing what was in my head as only a dream of how a camera could navigate while you're on a highway and use mile markers and other visual references and motion parallax and all those visual cues that humans do fine at is now coming true with AI and machine learning in this car, which essentially programs its full self-driving computer with new software releases every 2-3 weeks or so. I've had many over the past year, just making this car smarter and watching it grow up. It was like a 13-year-old driver that shouldn't be driving at all when I picked it up a year ago. And I had the family in there and would only turn on full self-driving for a few moments, versus now where the tedium of a very long trip is greatly reduced. And now we easily drive to visit family in Pittsburgh, for instance. Yeah, it's 8 hours, but guess what? Flying is 5 hours, 45 minutes plus a connection between, and then you need to get a rental car when you get there. So huge win for us and our family and our needs. And then I'll end with safety. Safest car ever tested. That's how I want to end this video. That was the primary driver here, not the 0 to 60 time. 4-wheel drive, just have one car that's good in the snow. We've never run 4-wheel drive before, my wife and I. And safety, the likelihood of us making it home safely with our family. Crash resistance, crumple zone in the front, all of it. Take a look at the videos. It's crazy. The safest car ever tested. So that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed this 1-year look or recap look at the car. I already have plenty of pictures and articles about accessories and all that stuff that have been updated frequently throughout the year. You're not missing anything. There's an article that goes with this video that says, hey, here's what I think after a year. But it's all been documented. So check it out on my channel and my website.